up, everyone? This is Draco Evolve back yet again with some latest Manchester United transfer news now, and we have a few things to cover. Bit of a blockbuster show, I must say. We've got Saul Niguez, we have Jadon Sancho, Jude Bellingham, we have Dimitar Berbatov coming out and saying things about Jadon Sancho, we have Jack Grealish, Angel Gomes, and a new striker that we've been linked to, Carlos Vinicius. But as always, guys, you guys can sort of see the timestamp going across your screen now. Feel free to jump across whatever section that you find most interesting. Although, as always, as I said, stick around and you'll be able to pick up loads of bits and bobs as you guys have been doing the past few weeks. But first up, it is the thumbnail news. It is Saul Niguez. So this is coming out from the Daily Star. I will read you out exactly what the Daily Star has written. Manchester United are reportedly nearing a deal to sign Atletico Madrid midfielder Saul Niguez with the financial impact of the ongoing pandemic, forcing the La Liga side to cut their asking price. Niguez has long been of interest to the Red Devils, and Daily Star Sport understands that a deal for the Spaniard to replace him is closer than ever. United are planning life without Paul Pogba and view Saul Niguez as an ideal replacement. Another Spanish outlet are reporting that the deal is practically closed, forcing Atletico to accept a bid lower than the player's release clause. So the release clause is £132 million, but it could be much lower to around £70 million. Rio Ferdinand has come out and said he's another one. What a player. I've been harping on about Saul Niguez for a few years. I think he's a major player, composed, calm, great left foot, lovely conductor. He can score goals. Tactically, he's very aware. You can see Simeone, he gets his teams really well set up and he's in the middle of orchestrating and dictating things. Saul Niguez is huge and it's come out in the papers this week that Manchester United are interested in him, but we'll have to wait and see. Man United are linked to everyone. So this is what Rio Ferdinand has come out and said in regards to Saul Niguez. Now we all know what a player Saul Niguez is, and according to Daily Star, Manchester United are very close to making a deal with Atletico Madrid for a cut price because of the pandemic for Saul Niguez. Obviously, Manchester United are also weighing up options, you can say, of Paul Pogba potentially leaving. There has been murmurs going, it's been like that for over a year now. Will he stay? Will he not stay? But if he does go, someone like Saul Niguez is, I reckon, in my opinion, a perfect replacement. As I will echo what Rio Ferdinand has said in the article as well. Look, he's left-footed, which is someone that we don't have in the club, which is good. He's a midfield orchestrator. He works hard. I mean, anyone from Atletico Madrid is a workhorse. You guys know how Atletico Madrid play, and anyone coming from Atletico Madrid to any clubs will know exactly what they're getting. Apart from the quality that they'll be bringing in, they'll also be bringing in the hard-working attitude, which obviously Manchester United lack, and that's what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants Manchester United to play eventually. It's just to push and harry a lot. We've seen that a lot. He has come out and confirmed that that's what they've been planning or have been doing in last summer's pre-season, and you can see how the players are gelling in, how the fitness levels are going up. And to be frank, Saul Niguez is the perfect central midfielder in terms of dictating play from there. I mean, Bruno Fernandes is a breed between number 10 and that central midfield position, so he can bomb forward, but Saul Niguez can certainly control the midfield from finding pockets of space, pockets of passes, the orchestra performance, the great left foot, attitude, work ethic. I think it does remind me of someone like Paul Scholes in his latter years, where he kind of done that role more often than not. Rather than bombing forward, he didn't have the legs, but he kind of sat around that central midfield and won the central midfield battle, which is very important for me. Having go through his stats briefly, he's still 25, he still has years ahead of him. He's played a lot of his games in the central midfield positions, as you guys can see on the screen. And let me just double check. Yeah, everything's recording well, sorry. And also, he's scored 4 goals, no assists, but it doesn't mean that he's not a creator. I mean, it doesn't have to be from a central midfielder. You got 2 different level of plays before someone can get an assist. You got the attacking midfielder and the strikers, isn't it? And if you can add another layer in with the wings, then assist doesn't matter, especially with the reputation that Saul Niguez comes within. That's my thoughts on Saul Niguez. I mean, he's a fantastic player, fantastic talent. I think he's going to be a great replacement if Paul Pogba decides to finally leave Manchester United. If not, I reckon, I'm happy with the midfield we got. Saul Niguez might be a bit of an overkill in the central midfield position with Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba occupying in that position already. Now, as always, guys, you guys know by now, I always pick up comments from my previous video, which was yesterday's news around Jude Bellingham. And I do try to get things in early as soon as I get the newspapers in the middle of the night, 11 p.m, whatever time. Try to kind of do these videos. But Loopy Lugs Gaming has commented, and I found his comment to be very interesting. Do go and check him out. Great fella, has been supporting me for ages, and his channel is all about gaming. So if you're interested in that, the attitude is amazing, and that's the type of people that you want to be really subscribed into. And Loopy Lugs had this to say: just hope Manchester United don't overspend on youngsters, as there might not be a room for them in the team and hinder their prospects. So that's what he has to say. And I did have a bit of a discussion with him, and I do agree with him. This was the news around Jude Bellingham, and obviously Manchester United will have to spend probably a lot of money to land a 16-year-old. So if United end up spending a lot of money, where's the room for improvement in terms of future prospects? We still have James Garner, who's a fantastic youth player level for us. Where does that leave him? And that's exactly, I mean, everybody knows we're in the transfer window, but we should not be overspending. We should be spending smartly. And I think to pay upwards of £30 million plus for Jude Bellingham, I think they had a bid rejected for reportedly in January for Jude Bellingham for around £30 million. So they'll clearly want more than that. That's for a 16-year-old kid. To play that much, I think it's a huge risk, and I think more than likely it's not going to pay off. I mean, anything can happen. He's still 16. His career can go down the drain. He can have a massive injury, or he can kind of not deal with the pressures of playing for a massive club like Manchester United. It's a lot of money, and it does hinder our prospects in the midfield, aka James Garner. What I did discuss is that I would love to see someone, imagine buying Jude Bellingham and having James Garner, both young, and seeing them come from the youth ranks into the first team gradually. You've got a midfield partnership for years there. You look at Xavi and Iniesta, that's pretty much what they did, isn't it? And what I think that's a fairy tale that I'll definitely like to see. But anyway, Loopy Lugs, thank you so much for the comment, and do get involved in his channel, guys. Great fella, great channel at the same time. Speaking about Jude Bellingham, so this is the news coming out from Daily Star. So I think there was a few reports coming out earlier. I've seen a couple of the videos, but just want to read you out what's been coming out over the last few hours. Manchester United want to secure the summer deals for Jadon Sancho, Jack Grealish, and Jude Bellingham. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has had plenty of financial backing since the permanent job at Old Trafford, and that looks set to continue despite the constraints facing the majority of professional football. The ongoing pandemic may have seen thousands of footballers take temporary pay cuts across the country, but the Red Devils are confident that they have the resources to spend big, which is something echoing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well. He did come out and say that, we do have the money to spend, and I think few clubs around the world have the financial power to still spend, and one of them is definitely Manchester United. And that is exactly what they're going to do if they are to tempt Dortmund, Villa and Birmingham City into parting ways with their star assets. Manchester United Evening News report that the club are confident that the aforementioned targets will still be attainable when the transfer window opens later this year, with some negotiations already going ahead. They add that the club have already been in contact with Villa over the future of Jack Grealish, who looks certain to sell should they fail to retain the Premier League place for the next season. Bellingham 16 could be available for a compensation fee should he reject the chance to sign a professional deal at St Andrews, and with Sancho valued in excess of £100 million. Daily Star reports understand that United have grown increasingly confident on luring Sancho to the club and are prepared to pay up to £70 million for the service of Jack Grealish. So that's the news around that. Let me just go back to the trio of pictures. I mean, I love that. I mean, I love to see them all three at United. They're great in their own ways. But I think it's quite sort of known that we are interested in Jadon Sancho, and it's been like that for a long time. Jack Grealish has been coming up into the newsreels a lot more, and obviously Jude Bellingham we know everything about. The cut prices there I mentioned is obvious. I think other leagues cannot keep up with the payments, especially during the pandemic, and that could affect someone like Jadon Sancho. Sancho's fee certainly being dropped a bit. Jack Grealish, I'm not too sure about. I think he is a player that will demand first team football. Although there is a lot of games to play during the season, I don't see why not. And especially when you got the likes of Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes in the team already. Jude Bellingham, as I said before, he's a young talent, and signing up young British talent at that age and developing them is the way that Manchester United have done business in the past. Obviously, we've seen that with the likes of Rooney as well. But this trio of signings will make us a contender for anything, I think. But I also think that there needs to be some sort of transfer outgoings. I don't think we can afford to sign all three and keep the current batch happy at the same time. So it remains to be seen. I think Sancho is pretty much almost nailed on. I mean, right winger, we need a right winger, and he's missing piece. Jude Bellingham is clearly one for the future, and obviously Jack Grealish has just been mentioned. Every central midfielder in the world is being now mentioned for United because they think Paul Pogba will be leaving. Two are the three I'll be extremely happy with. I'll be delighted with Sancho and Jude Bellingham. Jack Grealish, I think there is no need for us to sign him for that amount, certainly for £70 million. But I think we should keep a close eye on his transfer window and the club, his club Aston Villa, because they can potentially still go down. And if they do go down as a relegated team, then it'll be easier to sign their captain, Jack Grealish. But that's the latest on that. However, Dimitar Berbatov, remember that guy? He's come out and said this about Jack Grealish. I'll read you out exactly what he said in regards to Jadon Sancho. I don't know if now is the right time for him to go to Manchester United. I have mentioned it before. I have my doubts here because at United there's Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford and Daniel James. It's good to have competition for the team, but I will imagine if he moves to a new place he will want to play every game. But rotation is a common thing now in football. From that point of view, you can't guarantee a player will play, but I think we need to go with that assumption. Big money and he will like to play. For me, he is going to choose the team that he knows he's going to play, not to move and do nothing because that is going to stop his development. That's why I think it may be better for him to stay at Dortmund for one more year. Why not? Well, first of all, Dimitar Berbatov, such a classy player. We all know that. Talks sense, of course. But when he mentioned Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford and Daniel James, when he mentioned that name and whether Sancho will get a regular team, I think that his argument goes straight out the window there. I think Jadon Sancho coming in, Daniel James has always been a rotational player. It's unlucky for the kid, and he has even admitted that to play that many games. So that leaves us with Jadon Sancho playing a lot of these games, and Daniel James making cameo appearances to aid his development, and playing the odd here and there matches in the Premier League and of course in the cup runs. So Dimitar Berbatov coming out and saying that it's probably not the right time for him to move to Manchester United because Jadon Sancho wouldn't want to be played as a rotation player. I mean, where is the rotation coming from? Like, is Daniel James going to kick him out of the team? Like, come on, dude. I understand Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford, but they play in a different position in that front three. It's just the right side we need. And right side, Dan James cannot play 50, 60 games. We've seen that. In the first 20, 30 games, it's just dropped, isn't it? So I'm afraid, Dimitar Berbatov, as much as I like you, buddy, I will have to definitely disagree with your comment there. Jadon Sancho coming in will definitely make a start, will play a lot of the game, 70-80% of the game as a starting player for sure. Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho in the front three will be amazing. Dan James, obviously, it would be amazing for him to come on in the last 15-20 minutes to get fresh legs, etc, etc. But Dimitar Berbatov, you got it wrong there, man. I have to say. Okay. Angel Gomes. So we've covered that news yesterday. I'm not going to read you out the whole thing, but Manchester United have set a deadline of next week for Angel Gomes to decide whether he wants to stay or not. And Arsenal and Barcelona are apparently circling. He's a talent, but I think if he really wanted to stay at Manchester United, as I said before, he would have signed the contract by now. Especially considering the fact that he did come out from the youth system. So the love for that club is different than someone who's bought to the club at a young age. But he's come up through the youth system. He hasn't signed a contract yet, and his contract expires. Well, he's free to talk, or free to leave June, isn't it? So it's only a few weeks till June. I think Manchester United are right for him, for them to pressure Angel Gomes. I will just say end of this week, mate. Just give us an answer by this Friday so we can move on and kind of start planning things differently. Obviously, it'll be great to see him stay, because I have a feeling that he's going to go into, say, a Barca and have an amazing season, and 3-4 years down the line, just like Paul Pogba, we're going to be kicking our teeth having let go of him for free. He does have a great future. I think his heart is probably not at Manchester United. Players who's running out their contracts do end up, allowed to talk 6 months ahead of their contract due to expire. So he will be talking to clubs in January. From January, he has the right to talk. And I reckon the reason why he's not signing or saying anything is because he's had contact with clubs, maybe Arsenal, Barcelona, who's kind of turned his head, and it's probably that's the reason why he hasn't signed any contract. But that's it. Last bit of news. It's Vinicius. So Carlos Vinicius has been coming up and into the news a little bit. This is from the evening news. Apparently, United could be going for Carlos Vinicius for around £35 million. He has moved from Brazil. He has spent time in some of the biggest clubs, Santos and Palmeiras, before making a senior debut to Caldense. Then he went over, I'm not going to read you out the whole thing, it's just going through his history, but he went over to Napoli at the end of the season, but he's never made a competitive appearance for the Italian club. He went to loan back and into Rio and Monaco, and he has been snapped up by Benfica for £70 million. Now, ever since he's been snapped up by Benfica, he's been doing great. He's making a comeback, and his form has kind of helped Benfica go on this amazing 16-match straight league wins for Benfica. So he's left-footed. He's a left-footed striker, isn't he? But he's more of a poacher and dominating player, like a physical player, right? So, I mean, he does fit our. I have no idea what to say about this, because I've never heard of this guy. But all I know is that he's moved around a lot. He's failed in loads of clubs. He could be available for a cut price. He seems to have made a resurgence in Benfica. He's had an amazing season. He's still 25. He's left-footed. He's physical. He's clever in the box. More of a poacher. Different style of striker. Someone that probably we could be looking at to offer something different up front, given the situation with Igalo. And he could be available for a cut price of $35 million. Euros, sorry. In terms of his league stats, as you can see, he's played 36 games, 20 goals, 12 assists, which is excellent for a striker of his quality. And I think I said it in yesterday's video, there's no point us signing a striker like a Timo Werner, Erling Haaland, although I love to. Because where does that leave with Mason Greenwood? Mason Greenwood has so much talent. To sign someone like, say, Erling Haaland, who's still young, same case with Martial, still young, they could be here in the club for many years. Mason Greenwood, where does he step up? It's always nice to sign a striker where he's expected to play rotation, but also be on the older side. So he's obviously 25. He's a bit on the older side compared to what we have. And I'm sure he'd be happy to play a rotation. That will give a chance for Anthony Martial as being our main striker, with Carlos Vinicius taking up the mantle of a backup striker, but using Mason Greenwood to develop him at the same time and still offer him a chance in the future, saying to him, look, we got a striker who's 25 years old. In the next 5 years, he's going to be 30. He might be leaving. In the next 5 years, you're going to be like 22, 23. He's still going to be at your peak, so you can step right in. That makes perfect sense. And although I haven't seen Carlos Vinicius at all, someone of that striker mentality or attribute, you can say, will be perfect signing, I think, for us at this moment. You look at Igalo, not expected to start every game, happy with the rotation, happy with warming the bench, offers something different, but also not taking away anything in terms of development from someone like Mason Greenwood, who's an up and coming star. But anyway, that's my thoughts. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Get involved in the comments below. I'll have a chat with you guys. And as always, I'll catch you guys in my next upload, and stay fun.